Hello, I'm Ginny Gill, and today my case assignment presentation is on Uber. Back in 2008, Mr. Camp and Mr. Kalanick were having trouble hailing a cab in Paris while they were attending a conference. Instead of giving a problem or saying a problem, they came up with a solution. As in March of 2009, they had an app up and running and ready to go. The Uber cab that eventually turned into Uber started back in 2010, where they had their first run in New York City with only 3 cars. They became officially up and running in San Francisco in May of 2010, and from there, it became catastrophic. Business model and strategy. Their business, what they based a lot of their business on is this app. How they can make it accessible for people. They didn't have to have much spending because people would have their own vehicles. There was better than waiting for a cab. They helped unemployment, people that were unemployed. Hey, I got a car, I know what to do with it. I'm going to be an Uber driver. They also donate. They do Ride for a Cause, where you can go in and you can do it for veterans. You can do it for Mothers Against Drunk Driving did it. It also reduces your wait time on having to wait for a cab, waiting for somebody to come get you, waiting for transportation. It's kind of at your time. And then having a ride right there at your fingertips. Like I said, having it there all right for you. And then what also it does, it reduces the number of crashes. It gets rid of your drunk driving, your drug use, driving, distracted driving, texting while driving. It helps with those, and that's their strategy that they went with is, hey, you want to go out and have a good night with your friends. You forgot, you have your car parked here. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about hailing a cab. It's 2 o'clock, everything's out, closed. You can sit there and you can get an Uber to come to you at the click of a button. Now I'm going to move on to profit formula. In the early years, in the first few months of starting Uber, or Uber Cab, they made $200,000. This is before they even launched the product. Then, in October of 2010, they had, within the 2 months, they made $1.25 million. They continued their success in 2011, where they jumped from the October of 2010 to 2011, making $11 million. And then at the end of 2011, they were to $37.5 million. And their company, within 2 years, was valued at $330 million. That is a quick increase. That means they have drivers, they have customers, they continue their growth and had growth until they have 415 million annual revenue. Even when they had a $470 million loss, they still had an increased gross of $18 billion to over $68 billion in 2006. Now I'm moving on to their competing approach. They wanted something different. They didn't want your normal cab drive, your subway drive. They wanted something a little more luxurious. But they kind of wanted it last minute, or when you're kind of going throughout the night. They didn't want you to sit there and be like, kind of like where you have limousines now, where you have to call ahead. Do they have it? Do they have enough? This means you didn't have to wait for it. You had a more luxurious. If you wanted a different kind of experience. They're fast. That was one of the big things, is they ping your location and they'll get you the closest Uber driver. They also are easily accessible by the app. You can see how much it's going to cost. You can access everything at your fingertips. They didn't want to be known as a taxi service. They wanted to be known as a technology communication platform. They worked with AT&T and wanted the platform to sell to a certain lifestyle. Like I said before, they didn't want you just normal. They wanted to make this a lifestyle. Some of the leverages that they had with ride sharing, as they call it, is they're fast. You didn't have to sit there and wait for it to hail a cab or and then have somebody take it or not know how much it's going to cost. It's easily accessible. You would sit there and you open your app. There's pretty much anywhere in the big city that you want to go. If you're traveling, you don't have to rent a car. You can get an Uber. Like I said before, you know the price beforehand. You don't have to sit there and go, oh, well, I got to go from here to here. It could be this much. Oh, but it's this time. They would give you the price before you went. And you can pay by card. You didn't have to have cash on hand. And that you pay through the app. So it protects you and it protects the driver. And the best, it's on your time. Let's say that you have a meeting run late or you get out of the meeting early. All you got to do is open up your phone, open up the app, and ping and get your location. And you're on your way. Now we're moving on to, is Uber a socially responsible business? Socially responsible definition is it an ethical framework and suggests that the entity, be an organization or an individual, has an obligation to act for the benefit of society at large. It is believed that Uber tries to be a socially responsible entity, but they're also more worried about being politically correct. It's as if they have a deny policy. They're not always ADA compliant. There are over 40 reported cases of drivers refusing to pick up blind passengers. For example, individual service dogs, they don't let them into their vehicles. They drive away and say, hey, sayonara, sorry, leaving them when they're supposed to be ADA compliant. They also abuse those service animals by shutting them in the trunk. Yeah, it's their vehicle, but you also signed up to a company that I'm sorry, buddy, but you got to take care of who's there. Also, they are trying to be donating and giving back. They do give back. Like I said, they do rides for a cause. But they also stepped up and started doing more thorough background checks on the people. But you also got to realize, this is a multi-million-dollar company. They're going to have people that are going to come after them just for an even dime. So it's probably hard to tell what case goes where. Their culture. They're very modern. They're very up-to-date. They've been groundbreaking. They were the first to even come up with this app. And they came up with it in a couple months. And look, just in 2008, from 2009 to now, they're increased drastically. And also, it depends on what you want. If you want a classy ride, if you want just a regular, I want somebody to just come pick me up and get me to work. If you have a big party. Now, they're also getting accessibility. They're trying to become more ADA compliant. When we talk about culture, they have a very broad culture. They go to a number of countries that they are in, so they have different cultures that they have to follow. They have to be adaptive. They operate in over 400 cities and more than 60 countries. They're always growing and always changing. The biggest concern is paying minimum wage for drivers and an increasing competition. Some of the greatest opportunities that they have is they're doing better background checks. They're working with the FBI. They're moving past lawsuits and making new rules. They're continuing to grow and be in demand. And possibility of, instead of being a private entity, they could be going to a public entity. But their greatest threats are their drivers. Driver violence. Not ADA compliant. Their competitors. Surge pricing. People, like states, keeping Uber out. There have been in the state of Nevada. In the entire state of Nevada, they suspended service of Uber in 2015. Uber had not obtained the correct licenses because they classified themselves as a technology company, then a transportation company. Nevada also believed that undermining may lead to more going behind and doing what they wanted. Later in the year, they did receive their contracts, but Nevada isn't the only place the United States keeps them out. It's also Alabama. Going back to driver violence. Back in January 2014, when an Uber driver struck and killed a 6-year-old girl in San Francisco. Uber claimed that the driver was technically not logged on on the Uber app at the time of the accident and took zero responsibility for that accident. But this all happened after the employee was convicted of reckless driving and Uber still hired them. One thing that competitors are doing to each other is, for example, Lyft will call and they'll make a bunch of Uber pickups and then they won't show. They won't be there. And then Lyft take those calls because Uber didn't show up. And vice versa. Uber and Ola cabs over in India, they've been are under investigation for completing maybe 90,000 fake ride requests. That's crazy. As you can see, this is my works cited page, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.